Deborah, it is a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone's very excited about this. I've wanted you on for years. I honestly, you're one of
Years?
yeah, you're so good at what you do, and you've just topped it again with Jedi Survivor, which we're going to get into even more. But how have you been, firstly, Deborah? Thanks for coming on.
Honestly, blessed, well, happy, healthy, and grateful, 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 grateful. Blessed and well and happy and healthy and grateful. In a nutshell. In a nutshell.
How did you
Grateful.
how did you celebrate your birthday the other week?
I don't celebrate the birthdays. I don't celebrate holidays. I celebrate the everydays. And because every day is a joy, every day is a blessing, every day is a gift, every day is an opportunity, and I'm doing that every day, I'm not going to stop for one day of the year simply because I was born on that day. And so I don't celebrate the holidays, I celebrate the everydays. Why? Because the real gift is being present. That's the real gift. Being present. Being in the present. Every day, that's the real gift. So I don't stop and go, oh, well, I was born this day. Let's celebrate. No, I know I was born this day. Big deal. I know I was born that day. I know I'm 61. I already know this. However, I love it when people are wishing me a happy birthday. I love it when people are sending me emails and texts and e-cards and things like that. I love it because I know that I can translate that into I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And you know what? They'd be doing the same thing if it wasn't that day. They'd be doing the same thing for another reason if it wasn't that day.
Because
If
it's
we
all
had gone
love.
out together another day, it's because it's all love. Yes, exactly. It's all love. And that day, it's still all love no matter what. But I don't do the things in which I go, okay, I'm going to set up a party and I'm going to go out with friends and we're going to go drinking and we're going to go dancing and we're going to go this. I don't do those type of celebrations anymore. By 60 last year, I kind of stopped it because I realized that it didn't matter to me. And it wasn't because I stopped it specifically because, hey, I'm 60 now, so I'm going to set a new precedent in my life. That wasn't it at all. I just realized at 60, what came to mind was, you know what? I don't feel any different, and I don't feel like I need to do anything differently in my life.
How's your
You know,
life changed over the last few years as you've progressed into this gaming world and the voice acting, motion capture, performance capture, all that sort of stuff? How's your life changed in a good way, in a different way? Talk to us about it.
mind blowing,
Mm.
mind blowing. I don't know if you can hear those dings. I don't know if
No,
because
no,
I was,
all good.
you don't hear any
No.
dings. Good, mind blowing. If I have to have a phrase for it, absolutely mind blowing. It's mind blowing, not just with the work that's coming in, it's mind blowing with the philosophical and spiritual changes in the work in which I'm putting myself into, watching that dividend grow more and more and more exponentially. So for me, when that work started really coming in, I recognized why it was coming in and what I'm bringing to the table. And in that recognition, it only helped me grow as a person more and more and more and more exponentially. And when people got a chance and get a chance to see who that person is, they trust me with their stories and their narratives. And so I realized that the thing that I am transmuting as this work is coming in exponentially is that I'm no longer a voiceover person. What I really am is a storyteller. And this is a service industry in which I want to tell your story. I want to tell your narrative because that story came way before I did. And it will be there long after my voice is done with it. And therefore, whatever you were thinking, whatever you were feeling, whatever your mind had to create, which was on paper, you're giving me the opportunity to come in and serve what you've been doing long before I came in to say, can you fit my narrative? Can you fit what I've been feeling and thinking in my head and my mind as I'm putting this together and I'm seeing it come to fruition? And so my voice only serves that purpose for that thing. So my voice is always last. The story and the narrative always come first, because at the end of the day, you don't want to just hear me. You want to feel it. You want to feel your narrative. You want to feel that I fit into the larger scope. And therefore, it doesn't matter how great my voice seems. Does it fit into the larger thing? And that requires and requests that you show up not only with your energy, but to serve. And it requests that you show up with your humility. because it's about being in a service industry going, you want extra coffee? You want me to top that off for you? Do you need extra napkins? Do you want to see the dessert menu? Do you need the salt and pepper on your table? Would you like me to tell you about the specials? Because it gives you the opportunity to go, wow, I can serve my purpose in this, and I have the empowerment to tell that story the way you want it and the way you hear it. That's another thing, because you can come in with a great voice and you go like, I've created this character and I have a great voice print. That's great. But if it doesn't go to the story, what difference does it make? It doesn't match up with the equation of the story, of the narrative. So I had to transmute, and chose to transmute, the idea of being a voiceover actor into being a storyteller. So, because it allows me to grow even more without me having the egotistical idea that I know what I'm doing the way I want to do it with my voice. It's not about that. It's about, you tell me what you want, because your story, you feel it, you know it, you've lived with it for years. You have hopes and dreams of where it's going to go. Will it make it? Will a company produce it? What is the graphics going to look like? What are the changes going to be? What studio is going to help with this? Who are the people that you're bringing on who believe in this project? All of those things and all of that emotion. And so I have to come in with that space in mind, delicately and still powerfully, to go, I want to tell your story. You're bringing me in to tell this story. Because a lot of actors will say, I become the character. I just become this character. I never become a character. I never become the character. That three-dimensional page becomes and lives through me. That's the most important thing. It has to live through me. Why? Because every experience that I've ever been through in my life, everything that has hurt me and crushed me and destroyed me and built me back up and broke me down again, everything that has been joyful and amazing, every triumph, every success, every beauty, every sorrow, every sadness, every suffering, when you have those emotions written on the pages, you can't fake that. You have to be able to go, I'm going to cut myself open and tell your emotion with my emotion. Because at the end of the day, it's never about your voice. Again, the voice always comes last. It's about how your audience identifies and say, I see a piece of me in that. That's why video games are so riveting with their narratives. That's why voiceover is so amazing, because people get a chance to see something about themselves. The superhero, the villain, the lost one, the metahuman, all of those stories, if you think about it, the reason they are so larger than life is because when people are dealing with the realities of being excluded, not appreciated, not validated, politics, bipolar religious beliefs, moral ideas, LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, all of these things that are happening in the world, all of these things that continue to happen in the world, people want to feel as if there is something greater than themselves within them, bursting to come out to be in control, bursting to come out and have power. That's what video games do. That's what animation does. That's what film and television does. And so I want to tell the story of not myself. I'm going to use my emotions to tell the story of you.
Wow, what an answer. This interview's already off to a flying start. I knew you were one of the best at this. So I just want to say that with Jedi, I've beaten Jedi Survivor, and obviously I've beaten Fallen Order. And I think this might be one of your best pieces of work, because there's just an authenticity about this character that you don't always see in any medium. And I'm wondering, how you tapped into that and how this story resonated with you.
Cere Junda is living within me. That same belief in God that I have is the Force. It is the Force. And so being able to find that balance between telling her story and using my emotions and the things that I've gone through in my rage and my anger in Clack recently, and pushing the Force away because all this rage and anger has injured someone or hurt someone or done something destructive. And just recently that happened to me on Sunday, this past Sunday, that happened to me. And so being able to take those experiences and transmute those experiences and make them powerful to use later on for the most authentic storytelling is necessary. And so Cere is the most intimate character that has ever been inside of me, because it is as close to me as it is me itself, myself. Of all the characters, of all the beings, because once you bring them to life with your own emotions and are willing to cut yourself open and tell these stories, they breathe life. You give them the opportunity to breathe life. You give them the opportunity to breathe life. It's like someone who's got something in their throat and can't get it out, but someone knows how to do an emergency cut, and they cut the throat open right there to create this stoma, this opening for the air to come in. That's what it feels like. It's like there's something in me that when you get choked up with emotion, that you have to cut yourself open to let that being in, that you can breathe again. Because it's cathartic when someone like a seer says, Debra, I'm going to help you tell my story. And I'm going to help you find revelations in the things that you've ever been through in your life as you reveal them.
So how special is this series to you now? How special is this series to you now after the last few games?
Same.
Yeah.
Same. It's equally as powerful. It was powerful then and it's powerful now. So I don't think it has a level of power. I think it has a level of awareness in the power. I think it has a level of consciousness in the power and the acceptance at the same time. Because I think the level of Cere right now is a true power in her acceptance. You know, before there were things that she did not accept, that she ran from, that no matter what, she had a vicarious way of experiencing something through Cal. Her healing could not come without Cal, because whatever Cal was going through and the wisdom she gave Cal as a Jedi, that was the same wisdom she actually needed for herself. And so Cal was the catalyst for her own healing, and her own healing would never have come had she not been with Cal. But that's how the universe works. That's how the Force works. She needed Cal for something in the three-dimensional world to save these Force-sensitive children. She needed something in order to battle the Empire on a certain level. But she also didn't recognize at the time, no matter what a great Jedi she was, that it was also a part of her healing and her growth to get to the next level so that she can not only be powerful, but unafraid and willing to die.
And I love in this one that we get to take control of Cere for a small amount in an incredible sequence, which I don't know if you've seen, but
I have.
I had chills the entire time. It was one of the best moments that I've had in gaming in a long time. And tell us about your involvement in that with Darth Vader, because I know you went up against him in the first game, but this is a bit different, and there's some history there. And man, that is, you can now say that a character of yours has fought Darth Vader. I mean, it's just crazy when you think about it. It's one of the biggest characters of all time.
Yeah, very prolific in the Star Wars universe and in any universe as far as supervillains are concerned. When I found out at the table read, I didn't know until we were actually reading. We had a table read for it last year that Cere dies at the hands of Darth Vader, and it made me happy. It made me happy because I honestly felt that Cere and I had nowhere else to go, because the epitome of your growth, it's almost like when a show is on and you love it and it's doing well, but everybody knows when it's time so that it doesn't try to jump the shark, so to speak. It doesn't try to do whatever it can to engage an audience in a false way in order to keep an audience there, in order to keep the show going. It knows when it's time to let go. And I think that is the making of a great show. On HBO, there is a show that I'm watching now called Succession, with a stellar cast. And so they're only doing these 3 seasons, and they know when to let go, as opposed to trying to perpetuate the storyline. What other storylines can you give us? These characters are so sincere that you kind of know where they are meant to end, so that they can go off into the mindset of their own lives as we let them go from watching. And I think this is the same thing with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, when I found out that I was going to die at the hands of Vader, I thought it was a beautiful death and a way to leave an essence with Cal so that he can continue to grow, and that the sacrifice was necessary and mandatory for Cal to have his own life without me.
And
Without me.
not many people could say that. You know, he wobbled away, Darth Vader. You took it to him. I'm pretty sure.
I gave it to him good, and we gave it to each other.
Yeah.
We gave it to each other, and I think it's no stretch of the imagination that in the coordination of the fight and the choreography of the fight, that we both injure each other, you know, at the same time, the same way, spontaneously, you know. And I think what's so beautiful about that is I die with an awareness, a force sense of awareness of what Cal will have to do and need to do and will do. And the same way that Walt Disney died, his last words were a name, and it was Kurt Russell. No one knows why, to this day, that his last words when Walt Disney died was the name Kurt Russell. And so I, in that force sense, and right before that release, I utter the name Trilla. So the journey will continue somewhere without me, because even saying that was the bridge. And so I knew I needed to die. I knew for the story to continue, I couldn't continue with it. I knew that Cere could not continue with it. I think I've lived exactly what I was meant to do. It's like running a relay and passing the baton. It was time.
And what was it like on the set doing the performance capture for that scene and for some of the other scenes? How did you find that experience? I don't know how much I know you've...
Emotional.
Yeah.
Emotional, because for the fight sequence, we didn't need Cameron Monaghan. It was just the team that does all the coordination for that, and the choreography for that.
The stunt
and
guys,
that was, yeah. And so even still, it was emotional for me because I knew what it meant. And it was still equally as powerful for me because I knew what it meant. And so Darren Ross, who is a stunt coordinator, who's been doing this from the very beginning, and who happens to be an amazing and lovely man, as well as brilliant at what he does, and a spiritual gift to myself and a dear friend. It was not choreographed without that thought process in mind, the spiritual thought process, the beauty of it, the beauty of death, the power in the give and take. I mean, it was written as if it were, so to speak, and choreographed as if it were an orchestration. It was orchestrated. It was like an orchestra. Every song, every tune, the violin, the bassoon, the oboes, you know, everything was there. The cellos, the timpani, the timpani. It was just, he conducted it brilliantly. It was, honestly, it was Beethoven. And so I think that helped even more with the emotional space that I had to hold for it, as opposed to let me pay attention to the choreography and let me get in it, you know. So it wasn't a shoot day in terms of Tom Keegan, who directs all of the cinematics. It was just me and the stunt people. But it was no less emotional and no less powerful because of Darren Ross and what he choreographed. It was music. It was like listening to a song that makes you sad and melancholy, and you are in that moment, in that space of going, yeah, this is going to bring on a good cry for me.
Two questions.
And in the very, I'm sorry?
So, no, I was going to keep going. I was going to give you a backup.
And in the final shooting in which I was to actually expire, that's when Tom Keegan took over the cinematics, and those became cinematics. And the only people that were there in the volume working on that was me, Cameron Monaghan, and Tom Keegan, the cinematic director. So that made it even that much more emotional. It was really oof. I feel it right now. It's coming up right now for me.
Wow, that's very special. And
It was
the
special
emotional
is
part, was
exactly
that
what
when
it
he's
was.
Cal's holding Cere? Is that where the tears came? Yeah.
And I'll never forget that as I was dying and then I died, I could feel his tears drip on my face. I could feel them
Wow.
hit me, just like water droplets, hit me and run, hit me and run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really powerful. And we did it, I guess there were 2 or 3 of those takes. And every time it was a new emotional space, as if the first one before that didn't exist. It was powerful. And then when we were done, that was my final scenes with him. And
Wow.
so when it was a cut and it's like, okay, that's it. We were both, Tamara and I were both kind of speechless, and we just hugged. And the Waterworks came and we talked about working together as we did, because now we're talking about from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order to Star Wars Jedi Survivor to the next journey where we're doing this in what we do in our lives as Cameron Monaghan and Debra Wilson. Or I like to call him Cameron Mon the Man, because he's the man.
Nice.
Cameron Mon the Man.
We should give him some props. He's really great in this, in
Huge
both
props.
games. Yeah.
He's brilliant.
He's
And on
brilliant.
the set, a consummate professional and knows video games as well, inside and out. I learned from him. I learned more from him than he learned from me. I learned
Wow.
way more from him in what he was doing. I watched everything that he did.
Mm.
And one thing, and I listened to every comment and every note and everything that he was giving to the writers and to the game devs, and to the story narrators, the Sony people, Respawn people,
Oh,
the
so he was
narrative.
giving detailed notes on scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah, about what about this? What about this? And it all made sense. So I really learned a lot from him,
Mm.
because his investment in Cal Kestis, and his investment in the Star Wars franchise, and in his investment in his portrayal runs extremely deep. His investment in how it's going to look as a game runs extremely deep. His commitment is unquestionable. His commitment to his craft is unquestionable. Unquestionable. I learned way more from him than he did from me.
And was the chemistry always there between you two from the first scene you did together? Because that's what it felt
Even
like.
when we just met.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were always. It's interesting because when you keep your energy open to people, and people are willing to let you know who they are by their energy and how they work and their stuff. He's just a very down to earth and very committed guy to what he does. And I would be remiss if I never told him that each time that I watched something and that I was impressed. I let him know that. Yeah, it was a very personal journey for the both of us. We were close whenever we saw each other, whenever we weren't working together. And then I would be there for, coming back. It was always a smile and a hug. It was always a hug. It was always a hold. It was always that. A deep affection. A deep affection. I have a deep affection for him. And he feels like a son to me. So I have a very deep affection for him. And he's, a very deep affection for Tamara.
What were the biggest differences between working on the first game to the second? I'm curious, from a performance perspective or any sort of perspective, really. I'm just curious.
There wasn't.
It was a seamless.
No.
Felt like.
Yeah, from all of those years, and there was that big break that big break. But coming back into it, I think what really helped is having this huge table read, even though some people were in Europe working on other projects. A lot of the cast that was there, who had various scenes and various roles, I think everyone was there and made the time to be there, even if it was they were in Europe, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And so everyone made that opportunity to be there so that we can all read everything. And we all took turns reading the direction. And I think that's where we knew that it was going to be cohesive. Seeing each other again, having a chance to chat a bit, and then telling the story. So listening to each other and being present in the storytelling helped to make it cohesive, so that by the time you put it on its feet, we already had that experience that was a bridge to everything else. And it was back in the groove. We were all back in the groove and grateful to be with each other. And we knew, all of the changes that were going to happen. And you can't prepare for that, but you also have the silliness in the volume. It wasn't without us being silly and having fun. Oh, it was never serious work. It wasn't Shakespearean. Even though the theme is Shakespearean, it wasn't Shakespearean. It was a lot of joy and a lot of fun and a lot of silliness, especially at lunch breaks, because we all break for together. And it was all of that love. It was, yeah.
Do you remember a time cracking up, laughing on the set?
During actually shooting?
Or or on your break, yeah.
Oh, always. On breaks and stuff, always. Laughing and being silly, always. In between shooting stuff, always. In between takes, always. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I think that was allowing for the perfect balance.
Yeah.
The perfect balance in what we do and the commitment we have to the joy we're bringing to it as well, knowing that there are serious themes and serious moments. And then bringing new people in that were not there the first time, that we've for voiceover have worked with before, like Noshir Dalal, who is Bode.
Oh man, he was so good.
Mind-blowingly brilliant.
He was so
mind-blowingly brilliant. But I've also worked with him on video games, voice-wise, and just I love Noshir on every level.
Get to see him work as Bode, because he was This was a difference performance for him. This was a spectacular triumph of a character for him.
Yeah, and at one point when he comes to the library, that's when I meet him. So yes,
of course.
Yeah.
So you do share a few scenes,
yeah,
in a group setting. Yeah, wow.
And like I said, I know his voiceover work, and we've passed each other in work, and we've worked on the same projects, and we spent time together on that level. Yeah, he's another guy I do, another dude I dig. He's another guy I really admire and truly, like Cameron, respect.
I'm wondering if, because I know you're not a gamer, are you? You're not sitting back today playing games, but
no. I love watching the cinematics, and what they'll do is there are so many people who will put the cinematics together as a film, and this film is about 3.5 hours long, and I intend to find the time on one weekend to sit for 3 hours. I just got finished watching a 3-hour movie in a theater with my ex-husband. So I can watch this and see everybody's work, everybody, the hard work that people put into it. And the hard work that Tom Keegan did as well as a cinematic director, who I respect and love. He is my heart. He is my joy. He is my friend. He is my mentor. And he is my director.
Do you enjoy watching your stuff back?
I enjoy watching the whole thing.
As a complete story,
the whole thing,
not just
it's a piece of a story, not just because then my stuff doesn't make sense because I knew I did that already. If anything, I wouldn't enjoy it if it was insincere. I'd be like, oh, you just bullshit. You did what? And I don't subscribe to being insincere in my work. I go to the deepest places I'm supposed to go to, and Tom Keegan is the kind of director who knows how to get you there and then bring you out safely. He is the leader in the Alice in Wonderland. When you go down that rabbit hole, he will safely guide you through it so that you can, use your emotional space in a safe space and then bring you back out. I trust him with every emotional fiber of my being when I work.
Have you worked with him before? Because I've heard his name from countless interviews. Yeah.
Lots of times. The first thing I worked with him on as a cinematic director, was the Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Oh, yes.
The other thing I worked with him
So he
on,
does
the
EA
two other,
games. Yeah. Okay.
oh yeah, the other thing was Wolfenstein: The New Colossus
Oh, okay. Yep.
as Grace Walker, and Wolfenstein: Youngblood, recurring as as reprising my role as Grace Walker.
Oh, so yeah, a few times. Wow.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I'll give you one more.
And in voiceover world, in voiceover, he also directed me where it wasn't cinematics, was in a DLC for what is the zombie one that was based on a television show?
Not Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. Yeah.
Yes, where it takes place in Louisiana, New Orleans.
Oh, you were in that one as well. I mean, you're in everything, Debra. What aren't you in? That'd be probably a quicker answer. So one more on Cere. What do you want people to take from this character when it's all said and done? They've beaten the game, both stories. What do you want them to take away from it?
It's an interesting question, because I can't answer that question, because I don't want for them to do anything but to have an experience and let them choose how that experience moves them or not. I don't have an idea of what I want from you, because then that's ego. And so my ego is completely out of it. My job and my responsibility towards myself personally, as well as professionally, is to give organic, honest performance from the deepest and most powerful places within me, to tell this story that came way before me and will continue after me. To bring every fiber of my being, the truth out of it, and let people have their own experiences without wanting anything from them. It's like serving people with food. You may not want to eat it, and I can't turn around and go, well, I spent all this time cooking it, and I prepared it, and I did this, and I slaved over a hot stove. Then it's about my ego, that it's not about feeding you. So I have to ask myself, well, is it about you making food for people and having people thank you for it? Or is it about feeding people? And because I am about feeding people, it doesn't matter whether you eat or not. I just want to feed you.
So if you weren't an actor, I feel like you'd be a chef, right? Or a cook?
No,
No.
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
What would you be doing?
If I weren't doing this, animal rescue. I'd be living on a ranch doing animal rescue.
Yeah.
I'd be cleaning up stalls. I'd be shoveling shit, horse shit, cow shit. I'd be working on an animal rescue somewhere. Or I would be a death doula.
Wow,
I would be a doula.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You would,
without a doubt.
You could handle that emotionally, and you feel like you'd
Yes.
be, yeah, wow.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a deathbed companion sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, not only that, but what a death doula does is not just be a deathbed companion, because it's not about death. It's about the dignity of death in order to create a newfound higher aspect of the celebration of life. See, most people only see death. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone. I'm like, but that's what you get if you believe in nothing greater than yourself, if you don't believe the body has a soul. If you don't believe that there is something that's been left within each and every one of you based on the experiences. And so it's the dignity of leaving this experience that is the limitation of lack, limitation, and density. That's what the world is. There's lack in this world, there's limitation, and there's density. And so we make all these choices. But to truly, truly, truly live is to release and let go. Because you can't live without that. Otherwise, you're just playing a chess game, hoping to outdo somebody else financially. Because you're only interested in your own safety guards throughout the world, throughout the time that you're in the world, rather. And so there's more to the world than that, which is why if you asked a parent whose child is suffering with cancer, if they would give all their money for it, if they would trade their own lives for it, because they're always going to reach into something much greater than themselves in order to see the well-being of somebody else. And so the well-being of somebody else doesn't mean to stay on the planet. In dying, the well-being is that when you leave this planet, everything is taken care of and you can leave in a peace and a joy, a tranquility, a surrender. And I can support those who are here behind left with the idea of the loss instead of helping to support the space of what they gained. Because again, I always believe philosophically, it is a relay. And that every time someone finishes the race, they're not just done. Every stride that they took, every muscle that was pumped, every amount of sweat that was poured out of their body, they did it for you to pass the baton.
Mm. I'm curious, we've all made mistakes over in our lives. I'm wondering, was there a pivotal mistake that you made in your life that you learned from, or that a part in your life where you went in a new direction, or you had to forgive yourself, or something like that? And how did you get through that struggling period, if there was one?
First thing is, I don't believe in mistakes. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a human way of describing something because there is no higher concept of what it means universally on the larger scale. Because when you're looking at something myopically in the three-dimensional world, you're listening to words and the equation of what that word means, and it's bullshit because it's an illusion. There is no such thing as a mistake. It's you making a choice, and then there is the repercussions of that choice and the equation of that choice, essentially. So have I had experiences in which the choice that I made, there was suffering, there was sadness, there was sorrow? Absolutely. Which is why Cere and I are this really powerful energy together from what's on the page, and then using that opportunity in me to tell the story through emotions of the things that I did, that I hurt people, some with malice aforethought. And the transmutation that needed to happen so that I wouldn't be running from myself and continually feeling bankrupt on some level, so that I can continue to reconcile that in order to move beyond that, and at the same time, keep it with me in my luggage where it can no longer damage me or hurt me, but I can open up that luggage and share with someone else who's been through the same thing, so that I can support them to continue their journey as well. So that thing was a beneficiary to my experiences. It was a beneficiary to my experiences. And it then became and transmuted into the investment. And the only way it's an investment is if I understand and overstand my wisdom to go with that investment, so that I can use it to share with somebody else without having to go back to that dark space. Because I don't need to talk to somebody about something I've been through and then break down crying and have this cathartic moment again because I never healed. And so watching somebody else healed is a mirror reflection of my own healing. And it empowers me to know that my feelings are put aside so I can tell you this event that happened, so that you go, I'm not alone. And I felt the same way. And I felt destroyed. And thank you for sharing that, so I recognize that I wasn't destroyed. That I wasn't destroyed. You let me know, and you're living proof right here through your testimony that I wasn't destroyed. And so, yes, we're all designed for it. What I might consider for me a crucifixion, because there's no point of a crucifixion without a resurrection. So every crucifixion has a resurrection. It all depends upon what you choose. And every crucifixion that I've ever been with for my life to get to this point has its value. To do what I do as a human being, let alone an actress, let alone a voice actress. And it will always have a value even when I'm not doing those things. It will have a value as a death doula. It will have a value in rescue. It will have a value in being kind. It will have a value in being compassionate. It will have a value in sharing. It will have a value in volunteering. And I don't need to be an actress or a voiceover person to do that or be that.
Beautifully put. I could literally talk to you all day, but I do have to get to some of these questions because you've got to run. I know that. We're just not going to be able to get to every project you've been a part of. So I'm just going to go through a couple of them, and you can just share a story or something you remember from it, if that's okay with you, Debra. Sure. Okay, I need to talk about God of War Ragnarok because your powerful performance in that struck me as well. There was a small section of that game, but man, was it impactful. Talk to us about that experience, please.
I got hired on it. I did not have to audition for the role. Sony and the game devs was like, oh, Debra Wilson can do this.
Mm.
It was a 1-day shoot
Wow.
for Grýla. And so I knew I needed to come prepared. After reading the script, I went, this is so emotionally charged. I need to go to those dark places. I need to go to those spaces of love and fear and support and protection. I didn't want to make it one note, as in just a screaming, angry grandmother, because then you lose what it means. You lose the emotional thing. And I think when that vibration is strong, that you are telling many stories of your pain and your heartbreak, other people will feel that, as opposed to just hearing you scream. And that's why I say, at the end of the day, you don't want to hear me, you want to feel me. And so, and feel the story. And so when I met the young lady who was playing Angry Bode, I did not look at her. I did not talk to her when we were shooting, because the day I came in, there was no rehearsal. It was just shoot. It wasn't like, Debra, you're going to come in, we're going to rehearse, we're going to work this out, and then the next day we're going to come in and shoot. It wasn't any of that. It wasn't like, hey, let's make our introductions first. Let's all, talk about this. Let's go over stuff. It wasn't any of that. It was, we hired you. We know you can do this, because they had hired me for God of War before, and I played Pesta, a German witch, and it was all VO. And they said, she can handle this. No, yeah, we think Debra's going to be great for this. And so I came in really emotionally charged and really emotionally prepared, going over the things in my own life and experiencing them again in my mind and my heart, my anger, my frustration, my sorrow, my sadness, my suffer. I went to every place of those things and every reality that I had and an experience that I had in the past. And so when I met this young lady, I never looked at her. I never talked to her. I always stayed on the opposite side of the stage. And we were about to shoot. What I would do is I would walk over to her. I would tell everybody, stop, put my hand up. And I'd walk over to her and I would just look at her. I'd look her up and down, and I would look at her, and I would look in her eyes. And at first she was intimidated and she didn't know what was going on, because she had been around the set for a long time. And this was the first time, in shooting one of these scenes, that this person, this fucking woman, comes up and is in that space. But by the second time, we were shooting the scene for another take, she got it. And every time I looked at her again, we would have this knowingness about her being my granddaughter and me being hers. And there were times that she would look at me and I would break down crying. There were times that she would look at me and I would be frustrated and want to kill her. There were times that I would look at her and I want to hold her, but I hold myself back. And so every time we shot, she gave me something and I gave her something, and we never spoke to each other. We never spoke to each other until the very end. And when the last scene, when I say, I should have ripped you out of your mother, I should have killed you the moment I ripped you out of your mother, and she leaves. The very last scene of that, when it was done, when they had gotten everything, the director had gotten everything they want, the narrative people got everything they want, I just screamed and wailed. I was already on the floor and I just laid out, and I had to get the rest of it out. I had to get the rest of it out. And what was very interesting was I always bring that stuff to the table, but I also have to release it. And after releasing it, I got up and was like, woo! I felt like Nicolas Cage. I was like, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, baby. Woo!
What's
So,
everyone's reaction when you're doing that?
They laughed. It made people feel at ease again, because I think what they did is their discomfort came from the pain, and then them empathically sharing that pain that I went through that, but knowing what I had to do and watching someone choose to suffer and find that space to use it for this, as opposed to just suffering. Because if it does that, then what you're doing is you're doing the words a disservice, you're doing the character a disservice, you're doing the narration, the narrative and the story a disservice if you just stay there. It's not about wallowing, it's about taking all that stuff and then using it and compartmentalizing it where you need it in the script, where you need it in this moment, where you need it in the physicalities, all of those things. And it just so happens that Christopher Judge was not there that day, but he was on set in terms of a Zoom call. And in his mind, it was a what the fuck? He knew how powerful it was. He watched the entire time. He stayed on Zoom to watch what I did.
Is that
stayed on
flattering
Zoom
for
to
you? How do you?
Extremely flattering.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Christopher Judge on a movie.
Oh.
He and I did a movie together. The very first time we met, we did a movie together. Years and years ago.
Yeah.
But to have him watch that, and at the end, they brought the the Zoom call over on a laptop, and we got a chance to speak, and he's like, wow, bitch, wow. Wow. That is a lesson to learn, and to hold that space. But it's always a challenge to hold that space, but always, for me, I always feel vital and necessary for what I'm doing, because it doesn't destroy me. It only empowers me to know where to put these emotional moments. Like if I'm having a feeling about this thing in my past, I know to put it here. If I'm having a feeling about this thing in my past, it's there. It's just not all anger. In all of those moments, there's a section of regret. There's a section of fear. There's a section of loss. There's a section of rage. So there are all of these moments and where to put them to tell the story, because it's not a story of just this screaming giant woman. No. And I didn't want it to be that. I want to be able to tell the story and have all of those snippets of those various emotions in the umbrella of rage and anger.
Just quickly, you said you didn't talk until the end. What was that conversation like at the end?
It wasn't much of a conversation. It was more of a hug.
Yeah.
And it was a thank you for your work. Thank you for allowing me to invade your space this way. And thank you for accepting that. And thank you for playing along. Thank you for taking that journey with me. Not as just what you're doing here with your mocap suit on and your HMC. Thank you for taking that with that journey with me as Angry Bode. Because you didn't expect it and you didn't know what I was going to bring to the table. It wasn't me just doing my own thing and us having this moment when we're in the volume. It was me invading your space the way you invaded my space in the volume. And thank you for not feeling so intimidated that it didn't feed you. Because if it was just for me, I would not have done it. But I also wanted to have that space where she felt fed as Angry Bode in those moments, and she could bring all of Angry Bode to the table with me in it.
Two more. Destiny 2, because so many of my fans and subscribers love Destiny 2. They love your work in that. What do you recall from that experience?
Because Destiny was all voiceover, I got the opportunity to have even a greater range of who this being was. And I had no idea how prolific she was in the lore of Destiny. I had no idea. I had never heard of Destiny. I think I did hear of Destiny only because when I was working at Rouge Mocap in Marina Del Rey doing projects, whenever I went to the bathroom, there was a big poster for Destiny. That's the only way I knew the game.
Wow.
That's the only way I knew there was a game called Destiny, but I had no idea what it was itself. And so it wasn't until a fan told me, "You're Savathun. Do you know anything about the lore of Savathun? Do you know this game?" And I was like, "No." And then what ended up happening is the only social media I'm on is Cameo. And, people come and get requests for birthdays and celebrations, and they get, their fans. I was working on a project at the time, and on a lunch break, it was like, ding, ding, ding. And people were already requesting for me to send the messages as Savathun. Until it got into the thousands.
Shit.
I'd never had that happen.
That's crazy.
I'd never had that happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you have to do? You have to turn it off. You can't physically do it.
No, I can't. I had to go to a representative of Cameo to go stop this, because it had been building up. And I'll tell you why it had built up so much. And a lot of them were 24-hour requests. So at one point I stayed up for 72 hours to get them done, because I was committed to getting it done. I stayed up for 72 hours. 72 hours, I shit you not, to get them done and then put a stop. Until I can collect myself.
Man.
The thing about it more than anything else was being able to continue to build this being with people in that exchange, because that's what I'm doing when I'm in a booth. I'm having that relationship with these guardians, or with a guardian that represents all of the guardians. But now I can have that relationship with these guardians, and that only helped to evolve Savathun and really allow me to feel so fully comfortable and confident in being Savathun. Like I said, I don't ever become the character. The character becomes me. It lives in me. And so to be able to tell the story of Savathun outside of Destiny with these requests was really powerful. And so Savathun is so very much a part of me now that I can drop everything to be her. It's instantaneous.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous. She's an instantaneous being within me. I didn't become her, but she is so deeply entrenched within me now. And she's such a part of me that I can, in an instant, allow Savathun to have her say, because now she knows my experiences and she knows, how to be cunning with my experiences. She knows things about me.
You mentioned just quickly about Cameo being your only social media. I'm curious, is there a reason that you're not on socials? Is it just that?
It doesn't enhance the quality of my life. And if it doesn't enhance the quality of my life and the quality of my communication and the joy of all of that, then I don't need it. I used to be on, the only thing I've ever done was Facebook.
Okay.
And after a while, I realized that, and you can set up your page to be whatever you want. And my page was all about love and compassion, kindness and spirituality. And someone had something very embittered to say, an older gentleman, about my tattoos. And he was mean-spirited. And people began to attack him. And I said, you're not doing me a favor. You're actually bringing out something that needs to be healed within you. Because, and at one point someone said that he should die of cancer, or someone he loved should die, something really awful. And I was like, okay, this has to end. And I don't mean it has to end in terms of stopping my Facebook at that time. It was a matter of, I have to put the kibosh on this because you're forgetting what this page is about. Because now you're coming to my defense when I don't need it. And you're coming to my defense in a way that is about your ego and your anger and your visceral disgust of this man, when he is entitled to have his feelings heard, and he doesn't know me. And so I ended up having a private discussion with this man, and it was a whole different story, because I got a chance to know him. And whatever he said about my tattoos originally, it's like, okay, you're entitled to your feelings. You're entitled to your opinion. And I think at that point there was an anger, because I didn't fight back in order to give him the fodder to unleash again. And that's why everyone else unleashed. And so I just wouldn't go there. And then I came to his defense. And that's when he went, oh, let me look at the larger picture here. I dropped everything to come to his defense. I didn't help defend, the people who were becoming vicious. And I just said, you only created the cycle, and now you're making it into a cyclone, and you're destroying everything in your path, including the things that are around you that you like about me. Everything that I've built on this, you're destroying it like a cyclone. And I didn't come to their defense. I came to this man's defense. And then people were then going, I am so sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. And they were apologizing to him. And I said, these are, now you're my family again. You were always my family, but you stopped being my family. You're the one who said, I choose not to be a family member with you, Debra, because I always considered people who came onto my page my brothers and my sisters, my brother loves and my sister goddesses. And then they stopped doing that. And people apologized and were very kind to him at that point. And I've had people who were like, your spirituality is bullshit and stuff. And then I would say, message me privately, let's talk. And then I would find out things about them and find out that their disdain for spirituality was not really spirituality, but religion. And they would tell me their stories, and I would thank them for being honest and open, and thank you for trusting me that I can create a safe space for you to talk privately and just between you and I. And I realized that they weren't atheists, and they realized that they weren't atheists. They just hated the idea of what other people said their religion should be, and that they were not a part of it, that they were ostracized, that they were hated and judged for it. So they really ended up just hating the idea that religious people did that to them, as opposed to the religion themselves. And so when we broke it down, it was like, you're not really an atheist then. And let me explain why, because here's what you shared with me. So I'm only going to take what you told me and share that with you, only for you to be able to go, all right, let me think about that. Let me think about those choices. Let me think about those choices. I said, because I love you either way. It doesn't matter what you think. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to love you. My mantra is no judgment, only love. No judgment, only love, because we're all judge. So when I say no judgment, it doesn't mean that you are completely without judgment. It means that when you have judged, think about it so that you can go, no judgment here, only love. I've already judged, because you have to use that for your fodder. In other words, that's your crucifixion. So without it, there is no resurrection. So we will always knee-jerk in the human condition to judge. But let's not judge and find that love space. Why? Because we're all human beings. And if the one thing you have in common with that man is that you have an opinion too, even if it's that.
Wow.
And I realized, well, I don't want to maintain this page, and I don't really need it. And I really don't want to put up stuff about, I never wanted to put up stuff about the business, about what I did. I never put up stuff about,
Why is
this
that?
job I got
Was
or
there
the
any
thing.
reason?
I didn't need to. Why? You want to find me on IMDb.
Mm.
Watch TV, go to the movies, whatever. Or, I'm not going to sit there and tell you about the latest projects. I don't like to advertise myself.
Mm.
I don't need to do that. I do what I do, and I love what I do, and I make money at what I do. I don't need to tell you.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? I did this and I made money. It's
You
awkward
think the
for
work
me.
speaks for itself? You don't need to do anything extra. Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether the work speaks for itself or not, because there are plenty of people that don't play video games. I don't care. I know that I've done what I'm supposed to do, and I know that it feels good, and I know that I feel invigorated by the honesty and the integrity and of what I do and what I love to do. It's cathartic for me each time. It's this creative art space and this heart space. It's like breath. It's like breathing. It's breathing. It is a huge part of my lungs and my mind and my heart and my soul and everything that I am. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. If it didn't serve a greater purpose, then I wouldn't do it. Because I don't think this purpose is about video games. I think it's about transmuting the idea of something in that lower vibration to raise it up so that people can see a connection to themselves and others, and something that they need for their healing and their growth, a place that they want to be in their lives as human beings. Because when that game is gone, you're left with an emotion that is yours and you can do anything with, a feeling that is yours that you can do anything with, a joy that is yours and you can do anything with, a compassion, a truth, an understanding, an empowerment. Whatever you take from it, it's yours and you can do anything with it beyond that game. So it has to go beyond the gameplay. We have to tell the narrative of the human story of all of us. That's what makes us one.
Love it. And last one, Debra. This is a little favorite of mine that just shows how versatile you are. Ratchet and Clank, Kit. Man, that was such a great character. What do you remember from that? Because that is just super fun.
It's so different vocally from what I've done in video games. Because when in video games, you go, okay, she's a Black woman and they made her look like her. Also in the upcoming, not until next year, Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And I've done 2 other Amanda Wallers in another video game for Telltale Batman and for another project that is slated for Netflix. And so I've done Amanda Waller in 3 different incarnations of Amanda Waller. And so with everything that I've done, it's either Grace Walker, that's very similar. It's Cere Junda, shaved head. You see the similarities, either physically or you see the similarities in my vocal patterns and the voice print of what I do. But even General Lyons in
Modern Warfare, yeah. You can tell.
Yeah, Modern Warfare.
If someone knows you, they'll know it's you, yeah.
Even in Savathun, the voice print is there.
Yep.
It's different from everybody else, but it's still very similar. You go like, that's Debra Wilson, or, oh, that sounds like Debra Wilson.
But this one, they're like, Debra Wilson? That was Debra?
Yeah. And so what's great about that is, number one, that I get a kick out of that. Number 2, coming from those real spaces again. And it doesn't matter whether a lot of the characters that I played in video games are human or not. There is, as long as a sentient being is speaking, there are emotions. I won't say human because I think for me, I look at the larger picture and believe that there are other dimensions where there are beings that are like us that have feelings and emotions as well. And so I never say human emotions. They're just emotions. And I think that finding that truth and that reality in the emotions that I draw from myself, which makes it easier for me because I go, I've had these emotions. How do I draw from this for this being? Yeah. And at one point I did, and again, I always end up crying on something. I always end up tearing up. I always end up tearing
Yeah, but
up
that's because you
because
give it your all, and you've got to release something, don't you?
yeah, but I find that connection and I
Yeah.
go back into an experience and it's a heartbreaking experience and but it works. It works every time, and that's why I cannot see myself, my crack in voiceover work, my crack in the entertainment industry, my crack in acting, the thing that is my pipe that I won't let go of is honesty.
Mhm.
Is honesty.
Mhm.
I can't do it. It's my crack. And so I always bring that to the table so that someone goes, you know what? I can feel the sincerity because I'm not thinking of you doing it and it's making me cry because I'm empathic with you. I know what it's like to feel that way. And see, at the end of the day, for me, the greatest part of the high in that is people get a chance to see themselves in it instead of just hear my voice. I don't want to make you cry. It's not my intention to make you cry. I'm doing my thing. How you feel about it is your choice, your experience. And I want your experiences to come up because we're mirror images. So my experiences won't come up because you don't know my experiences. They're none of your business. But your
Mm.
experiences will come up when you felt that way and knee jerk into that feeling of loss or loneliness or being different. Um, and feeling like what you do is destructive. And that's part of Kit's makeup at one point. You know, she was built for destruction, not to love, not to share. She wasn't built for compassion. And then she finds these compassionate moments in which she can become the hero of her own journey. And she's given permission by those who say, I'm not leaving you. I got you. And you're by my side and you stay with me. And I've got this. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful, especially when she turns on Ratchet and is about to destroy him, where she's blinded. And then he's got a reminder of her true nature. She thought her true nature was destruction because that's how she was created. And he reminds her before he gets blasted into oblivion what her true nature is, and that he is a friend. And that it takes her time to learn that and accept that. And she does, because someone says, I'm not giving up on you. And I mean, who wouldn't in your life want someone who says, listen, I know this is a difficult lesson to learn. I know you don't know these numbers well, but I know you're smart and I'm not giving up on you. I'm going to be patient with you. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong a billion times. It doesn't matter. We're going to make different choices. I'm going to support you to make different choices so that you feel you got it, as opposed to me making you get it. You know, I can't make you get it. But when you get it, you know that you earned that opportunity and you know that you earned that space to be empowered. Like, I did this. And I want every individual to feel that way. You know, I don't want you to feel my emotions. I want you to feel your own and be okay with that. And know your own story and bring up your own sorrows and heal again and again and again and cry again and again and again and laugh again and again and again and feel again and again and again. I just want to feed you and let you say, this makes me feel this when I taste it. Oh, when I eat this, it feels good. So my journey is to take that crack and be as honest as I can and let you have your experience with my honesty.
I can't wait to see where your journey takes you next. I know you've got Amanda Waller and Suicide. Hopefully, we can do this again next year when that game
Yeah.
drops, because I'm really looking forward to. I love your
Woo!
rendition as Amanda.
Hey, yes. Yeah. I love playing her. I love playing her.
I
Yeah.
can tell you do. Is there anything you wanted to say to the fans that have tuned in today, the Star Wars fans or the fans of yourself or
Yes.
anything?
Thank you. And may the force be with you always and in all ways.
Beautiful. Thank you, Deborah. I really appreciate this chat today. It's been an absolute
My
pleasure.
pleasure. My
Before
pleasure.
before I let you go, is it possible for Cere to say something to Dan to round this up? Is that a possibility?
Dan, I know you have great expectations in what you do. Drop your expectations and live in the moment. You are great at what you do because you love what you do. You are great at what you do because you're passionate about what you do. What you do is who you are and what you give. Continue to live that and be that. And know that your space that you hold in that is vital and necessary to the universe. You are the connection to those who want to know more. You are the connection to people being able to peek behind the doors of what they love in video games. You are their connection. And not only are you their connection, Dan, you're their beacon. Continue to shine brightly. Guide them to that space. Hold them in that space. And may the force be with you too, always and in all ways.
Shivers. Thank you. You couldn't wipe the smile off my face. Oh, thank you, Deborah. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting again very, very soon.
Yes. May the force be with you always.